Hey, I'm using old cedar here to cleanse the space, to bring another message to you, which feels like a long line of messages as the people who I love and adore, in that the reasons that I've explained over these various 2 years in particular, that for one reason or another, I've had to take a sabbatical from social media. But more so, I've been on the front line of many people's lives, giving, giving, and seeing them, some of them thrive with it, and some people just use it to get through whatever they're getting through. That's fine. There's been an imbalance there, though, for me personally. So that's all been going on, and I know many of you are on the same path as me, have made the same decisions, the same throwing yourself out there to be a part of the change that is very much being trumpeted through the skies, through the ground, through the seas, the opportunity for change, and the time being this lifetime leading up to a epic battle of sorts. Over the years, you've known me to be accurate, but you've also known me to be very real. And I just want to go over a few of the things that I've been shouting out that actually correlate to my life path. And my life path is that, in a way, I do get ahead of energies. I do get ahead of fashions. I do get ahead of, so I'm a little bit a step in front of time. And I seem to willingly sometimes go into situations to help others that are dangerous, that are challenging, that are tiring, but also just walking in life. I find myself being found by energies that are combative, either towards another or towards just the essence of what I am and what I'm here to do. I've gone over and over how we were coming into a time of, yes, there is a lot out there about an awakening, about love and light, about beautiful frequencies. And believe you me, I experience those every day. I smile every day. I laugh every day. I feel soil on my hands most days. I connect with the trees most days. I call back to the birds that live in my big tree and my second biggest tree, and they call back to me. So all of that does exist, yes, but in a very organic manner of it just is. It's there for those who see it, for those who are connected to the fungi, to the birds, to the bees, you hear the frequencies just by them flying by. A big bumblebee that we call them, it just was flying around me yesterday, speaking just in its own frequency, its wings actually creating a frequency that was calming to me. So as I say all of this, know that I'm living the organic side of awakening, rolling awakenings, being connected, being happy, and finding myself able to be happy even in the most dire situations. But also seeing the reality of a lot of the meme culture of awakening, of this, grand win that a lot of people are being psyopsed into prematurely. So there's a relaxation on the front of those who may, without that psyops, have the opportunity to join ranks for changing the amount of color and frequencies that are being allowed into this petri dish that we live in. Outside secluded from the various other petri dishes of land that I know are there. I feel them. So we see that even trees that enter into this realm that are still connected by an immense root system beyond this realm into other petri dishes have made a decision somewhat to be in a very much more challenging environment to various other petri dishes that other trees have grown in. And they're real about the anguish that is felt also. And this premature, we've already won awakening, and the way that it has been delivered has been just another chink in the armor to those that are really wanting to fight for change. So I want to go over a few things, but I want to say why I'm going over a few things. And I want to say why I'm going over a few things in this manner, in that my gloves are off spiritually. And I've felt that coming for a long time. But my state of relaxation spiritually has ended. And physically, I have to be aware of that. Now, that came down on me in a way of many of the predictions that I was giving you guys, warnings, carrying something to protect yourself, being watchful of what those seemingly normal around you. And again, it's that step ahead in energies that I seem to be in, that I seem to throw myself into an experience in order to deliver a warning or a foresight to others. And so I want to speak firstly about why, obviously, as I mentioned. On a very sunny Monday afternoon, I picked Theo up from school with plans to then go and pick up his older brother. You all know and love Theo, and I know you all know of and love my other children, but Theo's the one that isn't camera shy. He's sweet and kind, but funny and bold. He's the Aquarian barbarian, isn't he, that we all love? So those were the plans. It was beautiful because it's been a bit grey, the weather, and rainy, necessarily so. But the sun really did make such a warm appearance that day that it was particularly a very bright, lovely day, warm day. I felt perturbed in the afternoon and I didn't quite know why, but I've been picking up on so many other people's anxieties and tensions. So I just continued to clear myself of that. Went to get Theo, and I'd been shopping first. So I'd arrived at the school a little bit early, but if I'd gone home to put the shopping away, I would have been late for school. So it was that kind of thing. So parking is tight on the street that is they have different entrances for different year groups, and on the street that this entrance exit for Theo's home time, it's a tight street, but parking's okay. And you know, I parked up being aware of not blocking anyone's driveway, not parking on a bend, and sat in the car for a few minutes and then went to the gate as it opened up. As I was walking away, I heard a lot of beeping and swearing and shouting, and continued to just walk thinking, what the hell is this? This is next to a primary school who shouts on and swears like that in front of kids, because obviously other people have their younger children with them going to pick up their older siblings. So I ignored it, but made note of it until it got so intense. I did turn around, but turning around also to look to see if I could cross the road. And this woman was making it clear, she was shouting at me to the point that said, me? I don't know this woman. I've never seen her before. And she was telling me I couldn't park there. I made it clear to her that, you know, I could. I wasn't blocking anybody. I made sure not to block the road and park in a way that wasn't obscuring anybody's driveway. So have at it. And walked away into the school. Picked up Theodore, and I actually made note to the teaching assistant to say, can I hang back and speak to you for a while? So I don't want Theo hearing that woman outside of the school swearing and shouting like that. And she seemed to have made a beeline for me. I don't want him exposed to that. And she said, some people are getting so awful, aren't they? So we talked for a few minutes, and like any school time drop off, to drop off the children, it's super busy and super full for a few minutes, and then it empties and all of the gates are shut. Home time, super full, super busy, full of people and children, and then it disperses, you know, within minutes, 15-minute window of the busyness and the dispersal and emptiness. And so the yard had practically emptied. In fact, I think it had emptied. And I said to Theo, who was just running around with his arm in a sling, because he did suffer a very small hairline fracture in his arm from falling at school the previous week. So it didn't need too much doing to it other than no sporting activities, which you all know that's been a full-time job to stop Theo from jumping around, you know, wanting to roll. So the sling was keeping him still. But still, he was dancing around me, and I'm telling him to slow down so he didn't trip with his arm in a sling. And we walked, playing, talking through the yard, out of that gate. I came towards to cross the road, and we heard this shouting and bawling and swearing. I'm thinking, where is this woman? She'd lived on the corner house. She'd reversed her car right up into mine, which was stupid because my car is a shed. It's a working, rolling, livery horse type shed. Her car isn't expensive, but a lot more newer than mine. So she parked right up into it. I'd noticed she cracked my bumper, but she'd also scratched some red paint off onto my bumper. And I thought, I'll deal with that at a later date. I'm not having Theo exposed to this. At this point, Theo is saying, Mum, what's going on? What's that lady doing? And she was standing at her front door shouting and bawling and vile, vile words. And I looked at her and said, don't swear in front of my son. Still getting Theo into the car. As I turned around and was strapping him in, I felt a weight, and this woman has grabbed my hair to the point where she could have been the one to damage Theo's arm. At this point, Theo's stuck in his car seat, starts screaming. I've never heard my boy make a sound like that. I've made sure he's never known a day of terror. The scream will stay with me for a long time, if not forever, in that it was a shrill. He was shaking. I had to twist and turn with her hair in a vice. This woman was big, fat, stocky, tall. And she was holding my head down. This went on for quite some time. You'll see me wearing headscarves. As you know, I always put something on, but you'll see me wearing headscarves and wigs for quite some time now, because it ended up, long story short, Theo was screaming the whole time. This woman's pounding this side of my head. I have concussion, still have, so bear with me. This is as concise as I've been able to be without thoughts getting away, feeling like they're drifting. So this went on for quite some time, to the point where obviously I didn't want Theo to have to see it, but I had to start to fight back. To which she commands the other lady I say loosely, that was with her, to open the gate and let the dogs out. Thankfully for me, they are two British bulldogs with very flat faces. But I was being held down with head down like this and being pounded here, and dogs jumping up at my face. They've pierced the back of my ear. And thankfully, I could feel their saliva on my face, but they couldn't get a grip. I was getting up just high enough each time for them not to get a grip. And I'm thinking at this point, Theo, I've been warning about these people owning dogs and the type of energies these dogs are picking up on, poor things, and going crazy. Dog attacks are getting wildly out of control in a lot of Western countries. And so this swelling mainly to the head, has not gone down yet, has not, she pulled my scalp, and all of the tiny little attachments that create the scalp tight to the skull were pulled up, and a lot of fluid was on there. So eventually I fight back. I managed to get something in that knocks her enough that it stops. At which point I realized I can't just run round the back of my car into the driver's seat, try to start it, because I couldn't trust that this woman wouldn't lean over Theodore, or that the dogs wouldn't lean over the open passenger door of Theodore and once again put him in even more physical danger. So I grabbed Theo and ran into the school with him as fast as I could. Bearing in mind that right now, and I don't talk about this very much, I'm waiting to see my spinal surgeon. You all know that I broke my back years ago, and I'm waiting to see him on the 20th of April. So that was taking hold, but adrenaline was getting me to the school. So there's cameras in the school. There'll still be some people there. We were banging on doors. It was like a fucking movie script. And all of the doors were locked. Like I say, quickly that caretaker goes around locking the various doors. We had to go all the way around to reception, and it's quite a big primary school. And I remember pushing Theo into the arms of the various receptionists and teachers that were still there, and them getting such a shock because my face was a mess. My hair was all pulled out, sunglasses broken. So they phoned the police. This woman had run into her house and phoned the police. Now that might be for a different video, but to say the systems are broken, they hadn't logged it right, they hadn't collected the data right. The whole experience was odd, unnerving. On a sunny day, I've never said one word to this woman. I'd actually not parked in anyway, which I think the police tried to tell her. Well, I know they did, because they told me that. That actually had parked in the best way. I could have parked on that street. And even that, obviously, as if that's any kind of excuse, but that was our argument. So this is how little, so the system is broken. And I've warned about, so I'm going to go over some of the things that pertain to the energies that in the last, in particular, 2 years have cropped up for me prematurely. I'm going to go over some of those to really have that impact, to say this is the kind of thing I was talking about, in that I've been, although coming against such strong energies, because I am this spiritual warrior, I just am, I can't help it. I've tried to change that in the past when I was younger. It doesn't work. Like I say, I've been, those things are challenging for a lot of people right now. I've been forearmed and forewarned, and I'm still finding bliss and happiness each day in that. But this is where this is part of the warnings that I was talking about, of where, let's go over it. I spoke about the changing skies, to keep an eye on the skies. And I don't just mean changing in anomalies of aircraft that governments have. I don't mean just that. Yes, I've spoken about that, but I've spoken about actual different star systems becoming apparent or becoming seen. Different planetary objects, different moons, different watch the skies, and the changing of the skies with the changing of the consciousness. And that I hear on the meme side of things that has been pummeled to those that aren't quite aware enough of their own self in order to have that type of awakening. So this forced awakening is something that they do deliberately, and so that they can control it, they can manipulate it. And what is seen to be done in love and light is actually counterproductive, because it's then they've wanted to ignore the nitty-gritty of actually the reality also of what we are sharing this with. So when these skies and these changing skies and these moons are talking about, there's activations, there's downloads, yes, there is. But other beings, let's say, because this woman felt so odd to me. After this assault, I had to keep having ritual baths that night, and the next day I felt like I was physically crawling, to the point where at some point I actually asked my mother to check if I had nits, because like head lice, because I was thinking, was this woman jumping? She didn't look like that physically. She didn't look unclean, but spiritually, she was filthy. And obviously, the confirmation of, no, you haven't, baby girl. But I'm also, as well as bruises, covered in scratches, because of me. That was me, the scratches, because I've itched so much, wanting to get this energy off. So they walk amongst us, kind of thing. There's variations here in these seemingly human bodies. There's definitely variations of types of being. Those same beings are being activated just as much. They're being activated in a different way, because it can only be what you have actualized in self that can be then activated, whether that's from a soul level, that you have it in an archive, a library of your own, to draw it back in, but you've actualized yourself in it one way or the other, before or now. So these downloads are, and these activations, they're not just all the greatness and all of the love and light. We have to be aware that these activations happen. Look at full moons. Ask any police officer, fire officer, fireman, firewoman, or ambulance crew, any crew. Ask them if they are more active, and what kind of things they see more of on a full moon. They're going to see more intoxicated people at a much higher degree. They're going to see more violent happenings occurring. They're going to see more stabbings. They're going to see more gun shots. They're going to see more acute illnesses, like acute appendicitis and things like that, because there is that activation of the parasites within. And depending on what you have within, whether it's parasitic or whether it is a more ambient, nourishing organic matter within, whatever you have spiritually within is going to be activated. And so it is abhorrent to me that so many people have fallen, and I'm not saying this as a slur, but that so many people have fallen for the dredging, not only of the bad stuff, to desensitize us. You know, you look at that P word that I don't know if this video would get removed if I said it now. I don't know the rules now, can't keep up. You know, but that word, if you look at that, people who say they're fighting it, yet they have thumbnails up of obviously abusive children being silenced. And it's like, but even by using that, you're perpetuating the desensitization of others that shouldn't be desensitized to photographs like that. Even if it is a child model, they shouldn't be desensitized to that image and that silencing of what should be a bold and beautiful and loud child. It's the same thing that so many have been hijacked in the guise of love and light. And it actually sort of feels darker that way, because how dare they use love, the powerful, forceful energy and life frequencies in that way, but they do. And so one of the major things that kept coming up over the years, and for the people who've been with me will know this, where I've kept saying, be careful. In particular, women, be careful. Keep your tribe, keep your crew, keep your circle small, tight. It's not about numbers. And there's been this huge encouragement, obviously, to unify in numbers, yeah? Which has basically just given a lot of sectors for grifters to work in and actually divide. And so even when you are going to a supposedly unified thing against a unified line that people have decided to fight against, you are going to see, if you're seeing that dancing and singing there, then you know you've just been invited to a festival. And festivals are powerful, but not when they're being used for one thing and saying they're being and done for another. So watch your circle. But it's gone further than that now, in that it's watching your surroundings. And that's another warning that kept coming up very strongly, of being aware of your surroundings, being aware of the risk factors. Now, I've gone over that day over and over again. I promised that woman during that attack that for every tear Theodore shed, there will be a cost. You know, then that was eyeball to eyeball. She gave me no choice. She had me wedged there. And I meant that. So, but I'd tried to add up the cost and value. I'd attempted to mitigate the circumstances where Theodore might not be exposed even to horrible swear words and an angry person. Actually saying the words to the teaching assistant, oh, I want that angry woman outside to go and drive away somewhere, have a cup of tea. I don't want Theodore hearing it. But it actually made it worse, because I never dreaming that for parking, somebody would stay so angry and risk their own security, risk their own freedom, risk their own, you know, costs to go any further than she already had over parking. So I'd actually emptied the field and allowed it to be a very secluded thing where only one elderly woman and elderly man witnessed it and tried to come over and help and couldn't unclench her hand from the wrapped around hair, and ended up that woman I was so grateful to and will be so grateful to, she used her body to at least try and shield Theodore from seeing what was happening. So I'd emptied the field. So what I'm trying to say is that the time is now of the warnings I was talking about, of especially in the UK when I was picking up on knife crime rising through the roof, attacks on women, not just by men, but by other women, rising through the roof. And it is, and it's happening around me. I don't live in a very rough area at all. You know, the school is in a rougher area, but still brand new houses built there. You know, lots of people have paid lots of money to live there still, you know, so it's not the it's not the pits, you know. Everything about that day should have been a limiter to the damage that was caused to me physically, but more so to Theodore emotionally and psychologically. In that it was a beautiful sunny day and there was nothing to be angry about. It was an activated day. The sun had activated lots in me that day. Beautiful energies in the garden, but it also activated her, and it activated in her parasites that wanted to consume, wanted to take, wanted to steal. On a spiritual level, there was an activation where the attachments that were on her hated me. They hadn't even seen my face, they'd seen the back of my aura. And there was unexplainable, inexplicable hate. So I would like to say that I know that we can't mitigate all of the circumstances where these people around us have been activated exactly the same way as you might have been, but they respond to it in a very different way. It's not all love and light, and it's getting bad around a lot of you while you want to continue pretending it is just all that. There was a stabbing at a similar time, not far from me at all, a place me and the boys and Abigail could easily walk to, easily, in minutes. There are sirens going off all of the time. Not just the ambulance, I mean the police. It wasn't like that 3.5 years ago. And this is part of the civil war that is being manifested for us, that many around us are only happy to partake in, to uptake in, because they have some skin in that game. They want to feel powerful in that sector or in that field. They want to take because they are racist against this one or that one, and that particular meme, that particular drenching, that particular activation meets the needs that would give them sort of political cover to have freedom of speech against this one or that one, insight in a old deep wound hatred, a lot of which will manifest by the same families that are manifesting this now. And so it's about staying as safe as you physically can. It's about, there are real consequences to walking in higher frequencies and vibing the way that we vibe. There are consequences to that right now that aren't all in the unseen, that aren't all in the emotional body, that aren't all in the parts of self that that only you can feel or see. Physically things can be fatal, physically things can be detrimental, physically things can be dangerous. And for a lot of us, we are actually living around many time bombs that are being activated by the same beautiful energies that we are being activated by, but they are not converting into what we would see as beauty in a lot of others. So you all know me. I'll be fine. I'll get through this. I'll make damn sure I keep my promise of every tear has a cost. And that boy cried more tears that day than he's ever cried in his life. So, you know, that's not why I'm saying it all, but it is to get very real. It is about being very aware that energy is energy. The activations from the skies, from the ground, the activations, their codes, their frequencies, they're not good, they're not bad, they're not evil, they're not healing, they are just energies, and they will be absorbed by many different things, in that the trees absorb the same activation codes. Some of the trees will be thriving with it, and some of the trees, it's activated root rot. You know, it's how it's absorbed and transmuted into the thing that is absorbing it and transmuting it, and that will look very different. But there will be categories, and there are categories of these people who, this woman has probably, from, because I felt her energy, I could read her real well. And there was something about the hair, the way that she did that, because there is a very spiritual connection to the hair. It's another sense. Hair is another sense, in that you go into a frequency that is odd or different, or you walk into a dimensional portal, or you have some kind of void that you walk into, or a house or a field, you'll feel your hairs go up on end. They're another sense, they're another sight. And the hair on the head, it is very much, because there is so much of it, a very strong antenna. And so that's interesting, that the spirits, the energies that were in her and around her and on her, that went for the hair. Where was I going with that? And there's been a lot of division in hair, hasn't there? A lot of good discussions about braids and this and that, and ownership of certain hair, and again, they're good discussions to have, because it's being used as a tool to dehumanize us. You know, the camps, the shaving the head, but they've just been doing it, and they have been doing it to Black women, and you know, to say that, you know, in particular, that, you know, you need to wear this straight haired wig, or you know, but and that's good, because Black women should have the opportunity, if they want to wear that, because I've got the opportunity to put in extensions if I want that. But it's the way that it's being pushed, is that all of a sudden they did that. It seems like an opportunity, but actually then Black women were asked to wear their wigs at work rather than natural hair. So it creates that division. I would never want that. And that's ridiculous to me. I love playing with people's hair. I loved having my Zimbabwean friends live just beyond me years ago, when Abigail was a baby, because the little boy used to love having his hair played with, and I used to love playing with his afro hair. it's just another beautiful thing here, the same way as silky straight hair is another beautiful thing to run your hair through, but they're beautiful in different ways. But the way that that division is being created about hair, and about the fact that she wanted to take ownership of that hair, is very strong. There's a lot of things that you do magically with hair, with teeth, you know, things that are of the body, that have the DNA in it, that have the information in it. And so talking about that is that when I'm saying keep your circle small, that is paramount, but also now in the UK, and I can speak to a lot of countries, you be careful of even people you've never known before. Literally minutes can happen, and these activations have activated these things inside and around these people that are just vile, to expose children to that kind of behavior. So that is one of the things that I feel we need to be very aware of, in that as far as you can, keep yourself safe. Because that's not a battle that's going to change anything, or, you know, be worth the cost. One, because no battle I enter into would be worth the cost of for my children. But two, it was a nonsense. It was for no reason. It was for no benefit. So the only benefit I can draw from it is that for you people, the people that are listening, is to make you aware that those activations, yes, they're happening, but don't be and absorb them the beautiful way that I know most of you and all of you that I'm connected to, for sure, you know, that will absorb them in a very beautiful, very meaningful way, even at times when you absorb them and there needs to be a mood change of solitude, of solemnness, of, you know, that is just as beautiful. And we recognize that beauty is not this blissful experience all of the time. Otherwise, we wouldn't experience bliss, because then bliss wouldn't exist in context to a comparison to another energy. But be aware that when you're being drenched in memes about activation codes and ascension this and this, that, know that that is happening in others, and they will be responding differently, violently. And this is a part of that separation that I spoke about, of the division of worlds within worlds, and then the add-on of virtual worlds, which are just a very scant, very cheap rip-off of a consciousness field. The people that have been drenched in these informations about activation codes and this, but not actually knowing how to use them organically or for their greatness in a what we would call a beautiful way, it's a very meaningful tool for societies of people who want to stay in control of others, to activate somebody who isn't quite ready to be activated in that way, because they know of the power that these beings that they're activating or pushing to recognize the activation, they know the power that is potentially within them, but the people that actually are being drenched in the information about the activation, rather than organically finding their way to it, or, you know, then their power can be utilized by the societies, by the people, by the powers that be, that want to control them. Because in that same way, they've got them hooked in, watching for the next meme about the next activation codes, but not knowing the equation of energies that can go with that, and the wisdom that is needed to be applied to that. So know thy power, really know thy power, but also know what it looks like to be around many beings that have been activated to feel a certain sense of power, but actually have no application, no wisdom, no guidance of how to use it. And so it will become a volcano of energy. It will become an aggressiveness. It will become a hatred or a jealousy that is in an instant, the minute you walk by them. Be careful of that. Be in places that are bountiful in unity. Be in places and around people. And I am so blessed for the people I have, including you all, but the people I have around me, in that at the tight, it's manifested exactly how I would want it all to manifest for all of you, that you have this circle of people that are tight. We have each other's six, and that has been tested with the various different energies that we've all run into in different ways at the same time, in the same ways, that trying to do a good thing. We've had each other's six. That has been tested. I've got it verified that I have a tight, wonderful, small circle of people. Keep it like that. Be in places where there are people like that. And unfortunately, be wise and watchful of others that might look that they're there for the same reason. Be guided by your intuition. If you start feeling that vampirous energy, if you start feeling that ego wanting to pull and sort of mimic you, be watchful of that type of energy. The other thing is that we've got so many people playing with Magick with a K. We've got so many people, and yes, you can say in one sense it's great that people are going back to organic matter that heals, that does this, that, and the other, but they are also being drenched once again in the short videos, in the clips, in the memes, in the telegrams of spell work without knowing the wisdom of that application. And so be aware of hexes, be aware of hate spells, be aware of love spells, be aware of people and things trying to attach to your energy in that way. Because that is something that I feel people doing, I feel happening around me very much so. It's very different to those exploring organically and doing it for self, doing it for that activation of self. But there are people out there they're being taught a little bit about a little bit and doing a lot with a little bit without any wisdom. Calling in love that isn't theirs to demand nor deny it, and trying to tie such powerful, beautiful energies such as love into a red ribbon, into a binding. It's a very toxic space to be, and actually annoys the fuck out of me, in that once again it would, if we would continue on this trajectory, would once again lead to a mass burning, which is happening anyway in the sphere of the woman and what the woman is, a mass burning of the witches and the ones that would know how to apply those things with wisdom, because the effects will be seen over the next months to years. The effects of people playing with things without going deep into that guidance, without finding an organic route to it. The they actually would lead us or help and lead us to what would be a future excuse for a very, very out there, very advertised slaughter. And that's happening in the whole argument of what a woman is. It's not always going to look the same as burning at the stake. There is a burning of women. So that's another thing that I wanted to touch on, that has been a repetitive energy, repetitive warning of stepping into your power, but recognizing those that are just putting on the robe of power without the wisdom of how to wear it, of how to show it to the world. So there's that to be watchful of. There is a huge thing that I've kept talking about regarding parasites, and I've kept mentioning them, and that this is the application, and I see a lot of people talking about it now, which is great. But it also would be great if a lot more people would have heard from many others like me years ago about parasites, about how they are the gods within, literally are telling us to eat sugar, telling us to eat, who has more control, this big body or the tiny little microscopic parasites and long parasites that are hidden. And this is where the application of parasites being mRNA'd up the yin yang, let's say, to be controllable to those who have the code, to those who have the code to make them be applied in the body in a specific way. I keep having like a vision, a breakthrough of and this has been repetitive, so repetitive over the last few months and I don't know what it's called, but I know of it, and it's an insect that, or parasite, sorry, that, or an insect maybe, that burrows into the brain of a more agile insect or bird, I can't remember, that eventually makes them commit suicide, so that once they're ready to, devour the body and be whatever they've been in there cooking to be. Put in the comments what that is, because I've totally forgotten it. Concussion. But yeah, the programmable matter of parasites has been a huge field of research for them. And I think they've had huge breakthroughs over the last few years of being able to code these parasites in a very specific way for very specific parts of the body, and therefore parts also of the consciousness. It's like they're infecting the body and infecting the conscious field, the conscious pool. So be aware of that. Do your parasitic cleanses. This is not medical advice. Do your own research, but do your parasitic cleanses. Do you remember when I was growing up, it was quite regular actually, that it was very simple teas or medications that would I remember having parasitic cleanses more as a child, and it being much more known about. There's not that many children getting that now. They're not, and they don't know how to avoid it for themselves. We've gone backwards in that way again, the knowledge. So doing that is very important, because when I say the parasites are able to be coded to be connected to the conscious field, I'm telling you that a lot of these parasites are being coded to even make people act in a certain way online, go and seek out certain products. Go and seek out certain interests, literally. So be aware to keep those colon cleanses to maintain self that way, to continue to clear the system regularly, because I feel they're going to be putting these parasites. They already have been putting them out for many of the diseases that we think are diseases that aren't parasitic. But I feel like there's a rollout of not just what's been rolled out recently over the last few years, but a rollout of a big rollout of parasites in various different ways that are coded this way. And so just as the parasites within the body can affect or have an effect or reach into the conscious fields of gold, they also will be directing people to the conscious field that is being built, that the whole metaverse thing on a grand scale. That's just fascia. It's finishing, but it's a label to put to it. But the whole sector of that, of being able to actually get people to be almost robotically directed into putting their interests in something and being captured in a certain cage in the AI conscious field. Be aware of that. I think this woman was covered in things like that. I felt it for days afterwards. I've used the wormwood and still am using that in a tea. Various other things that I will be implementing after I've used the wormwood as a cleanser. But spiritually, it is spiritually it was an itch, it was a scratch, I wanted it off, I wanted it away from me. There was pepper in the bath, salt in the bath. There was I think there was dandelion in one of the baths, and then there was citrusy citrus peels and rosemary and oregano. I had my tea baths, and again they'll be going up on Divinity soon. But again, I've been knocked off kilter, and as a single mother, I'm juggling, man. I'm juggling. I am. And bless my heart, I'm trying. And it is difficult in these energies because I'm knocked off kilter. All business is off kilter. There's just me, so it's a wake-up call to see that this assault was something spontaneous, instant, was volcanic, was I'd walked just in my vibe. I was happy in my vibe, feeling me, thanking me for me, kind of thing. Who said that? Snoop recently. I thank me for doing me. I thank me for doing that work. I looked good. I felt good. We were going to go and have a good time. It was not an end to a day. It was like a middle mark. It was happy to get my boy, happy to be going to get my other boy, and going somewhere, doing something in the sun. This was instant, but that has knocked me off kilter, quite literally, like knocked it to there too many times off kilter. But adding up all of those other times where I've done what I've needed to do, there's no regret, but the trenches that I've been in, I can't tell you. And doing a good thing and helping a heck of a lot of people. The very few I would ever speak personally about, because they've either it's their story, whether they've being the ones to fly with that aid, or being the ones even to in the back. It's their story. And I wouldn't take away from what I do by drawing attention to detail. But many, many people, and the circle I've got around me will attest to that, if that's even necessary. But I've given a lot of time. I've given a lot of effort, for free, without cost, without. So when you realize that, yeah, okay, these trenches are coming, so that there is a time now for business. And I don't know. We'll walk this walk. How do you avoid that? I don't know. I've done lots of things to put in place to avoid that. And I'm protected. Those dogs should have been able to grab a hold of this area. This is where they were getting. This is where they were banging up. Still a bit swollen on there, but they, pierced the ear. They should have gotten, I'll survive this. There was a protection there that day, even though it didn't seem like it to others. There was. This woman was wild. She was wild. And it was instant. And it takes you off kilter. It's a sunny day. You've got your little boy. It's right next to a primary school. I mean, what kind of energy, deprived energy like that would be so close to a space like that? But it was. And so it is about getting to business where I can, how I can. But it is also, I will not stop doing what I know to do, and that is to open up to the ethers what my offering can be in drawing attention to past warnings that I'm saying are here now. They're here now. So now all of the things I've said in the past to apply to a level of uplift, a level of safety, a level of all of that is all of the warnings of the manifestation of civil war and the set to between people and the divisions and all of that. It's here now. So if this is reaching your ears, apply it now. It might be that you do not walk in places where frequencies are so volcanic towards you. It might be that you live in a very secluded area, but keep yourself aware, because it's not all physical. This was a huge manifestation of an undercurrent of many people being activated by the same activation codes, but those codes read very differently going through individuals' meters, so to speak. So the time is now. Theodore is doing better. He's been staying at my mum's so that I can rest with Abby too. William, he's so lovely. He's been so good for me. He's been so good to me, and he's wanted to stay with me. And I can rest with William. He's a good boy. And he's 13, so he's that bit older. Theodore, he's happy to say, I know you're resting, Mum, but I need this, and can we do this? And so, and long may that last. He's okay. He's having bad dreams, which Theo rarely has, to the point of almost negligible. I can't really remember vividly. There's been a couple, but they've been very psychic dreams, but just dreams as in dreams of returning to a space of terror. He's having bad dreams, which is being cared for beautifully, obviously. But so he's okay, but he's been affected, and it's going to be a journey to make sure that effect isn't holding on him. Theo's never had a fear of animals. he's confident, even in his tiny state against Queenie, the horse, Opal. The horse, even in their huge state compared to his tiny state, he's confident around them. He's never been afraid of dogs. He's a little bit tentative now. He's a little bit jumpy still, but he's never seen a violent dog, or he's certainly never seen two violent dogs up in his mother's face. So, yeah, just I'm making people aware of what's happened and applying it to everything that I've warned about in the past, saying it is here now. And yes, the downloads are not love and light. They are codes, not just codes. They're beautiful, but that reads very differently. They're in different energetic codes. It is us that apply the differences of perception of how it's read, of how it's activated within individuals. So be aware of that. I accept your love willingly and freely and give it my love back to you, because I know that for the most people that I speak to through this, I know you, and I know that Theodore will be the first and last thought on your mind till his healing is done. And I thank you for that. But it's intense. It's intense. In the UK, I don't know how I say that. Well, I do think, because thinking is how I work, but the level of civil disobedience, the level of depravity amongst the community members against one another is going through the roof. And it's going to keep rising. It's going to keep rising. Funnily enough, the weeks leading up to the assault, I'd actually had to stop to rescue a boy from this girl literally trying to pull hair out of his head at the high school. I'd actually had to stop that happening, and did, thankfully. But then I'd seen a video not long before that of a girl getting hurt at school by other girls and having her hair pulled out, and she did have afro hair, beautifully wound and bound, in the. And I remember cringing and weeping inside for her. I'm thinking, what does that feel like physically, but spiritually? Because of that, it was sectioned into squares on the head, so that the hair was very neatly, how beautifully it's done. It was very neatly sectioned off into squares that were quite big squares. So they were beautiful, big, thick locks. And so obviously that's made it even harder, but probably tension-wise for that poor girl's scalp. This is a schoolgirl, but also for the amount that could be pulled so easily was the very big space of these squares that have been taken out. And now the equivalent of so much of my hair being ripped out. I mean, the patch here is a fist size. I felt that pain, but I'd been recognizing it, for the weeks ahead. It had been walking in my path without me even trying to either see that video. And I'm glad I did, because I was sending that poor little girl love. But to to see that, and then also see the little boy that I had to stop having his hair pulled out, beautiful long blonde hair, beautiful as well, being pulled, to then it stepping on me and Theodore. And so I'm saying to you, really, this is how I work. Watch. And I've made comment to friends to say there's something about hair pulling, the scalping, like they're wanting to do the old age, modern day scalping, of taking from that space. There's something about that, like people have been activated back into toddlerhood, toddlers often pull hair, especially when they're nursing from you. If you've got long hair and you've breastfed a baby, you know that they'll pull and play. And, if you've got like pigtails or plaits, down, which I often had, or you all know I plait my hair a lot. But when I was nursing, the hair was longer, and a baby's got no worries about when they're learning how to stand up on your lap. They've got no worries about pulling on those pigtails like they're ropes, So there's this regression back to this toddlerhood stage, but in a very violent way. And it is like that thing, and I don't know who said it, but if you apply toddlers, yeah, if toddlers had the range of motion that teenagers and adults have, they'd be walking assassins, because they don't know, so they pull and they punch and they tantrum, but we're seeing that regression and that activation of that in teenagers and adults. So be aware of what path you're walking into, what energies you're seeing and witnessing, and your intuition either making you do something or just recognizing it as something that I need to take note of. That is all part of keeping yourself active and safe in the environment that we're walking into right now. So I hope I've managed to bring you some good shit that you can apply in a good way for your greatness. I hope that I've managed to make enough sense that you could follow what I'm saying. I hope a lot of you can refer back to those things that I've warned about, those things that I've felt coming up, and I'm saying that they are now, so that you can apply that. And most of all, I just hope that you know that when I can't connect in this way to people I've made deep connections with, consciously, subconsciously, and emotionally, and I have all of the people over at Wayne Steiger's bus space, all of the people here in the Fields of Wren, my nickname, there's a love, and so when I don't get to you, I feel it. I feel the pressure of it. I feel the void of it. So even that, I hope that I've made enough sense to convey that to the people that know that apply to them, know that applies to them. Parasitic cleanse, get it done. Wormwood, start with that. Not medical advice, just saying it's a plant. Get it done, and I'll try and hook back in with you. I'm not ready to show the patches. And looked, I can feel them. They've been measured. The police have taken pictures. That's the other thing. With these activation codes, activating people like that, and I'm going to say it really, really quickly so that I don't keep you any longer than I have to, in that the danger of it is that we are still living, and people who are peaceably, people who are harmonic, people who are loving, we are actually but we adhere, even for the systems that we don't agree with, the things that those systems say that they are there to facilitate or grow or protect. We actually would agree with, in that you don't take from another, you don't want to harm another, you protect the children, you do all of those things. So we actually still are even those that are free of that system are still captured by it, in that we resonate with the message that they say they are there for, to push and to put in place. So we are doing that, whereas the people that are against everything that even the systems like police system says that they are there to do, they are against everything that we organically just know should be protected and fulfilled and not done, and etc., etc. They actually are being given a lot more free rein in the UK by police. I.e., there was something a long time ago now, not ages ago, but quite a while ago now, where they put a thing in place in the UK that if anything was stolen up to £100, they're not prosecuting. So you've got people going into stores stealing £99 worth of objects, of things, of whatever, and knowing that they won't get a prosecution. Now, that fulfills just an energy of, for those that are being activated at the same time, but transmuting it in a very different way, of an energy of we can take. And that has transfused down through the ranks of those that actually don't stand for the same things that we stand for. So the police are there, but they're not there. So we are still acting under a lot of the rules that the police would actually say that they act for and under and over, but they don't. And the people who they are supposed to be there to prosecute, see, it's a double switch. It's like a card game where they're playing I don't know the term, but like a switch on you. Is it a stitch? No, it's like a switch, a card game switch. Like, when somebody's got a card up the sleeve, that's what that is. So we are still more under the umbrella and the prosecution of the police for what we stand for, which is what they say they stand for, than the people who are being activated that don't stand for any of that. And so there is an encouragement, and this is manifested from on high, believe you me. There is an encouragement of civil disobedience. And I don't mean civil disobedience as in just breaking laws. I mean civil disobedience as in somebody would feel quite happy to go into somebody's shop that they've worked so hard to maintain and keep open, especially over the last few years, and they'll take £99 worth of things because they know they won't get prosecuted. So there's not even that cost relevance to them anymore of doing time or paying a fine or having to go to court, or all of those consequences that might have limited that type of behavior. Is actually, the barriers have been pushed outwards. And they've been doing this also by recruiting via Zoom without the video on. When have you ever known police officers to be recruited via Zoom? Just, it's a telephone call at that point. There's not the traditional police camp, training camp that they would usually go through, where wrong-uns or just lazy would be picked up. They're not doing that. So there's the behind the scenes of the label of these systems that actually we're still sort of adhering to, through the back door, that they're feeding those that would cause civil upset, civil loss, other people's losses, the taking. And so they're being activated with freedoms that they've never felt before, to act in a certain way. And that's part of what this woman has been activated by, in that she's felt a certain level of freedom. Apparently she's made that streets life a misery, particularly over parking for years. But there's been this activation where she hasn't feared the consequences as much as she did before. And that is happening. And so it's a very clever and tactical move. But if you're looking at the let's see, that's just an old leaflet. So pretend that's the police, and they're saying everything that they say was here to serve and protect, and LGBTQ and this and that and the other. That's the veneer. You are being held to a higher standard by them, but certain loopholes like the £99 rule is being extended out the back to those that would usually be locked up at the back, serving any consequence of taking off another. So do you see what I mean? So be aware of that. And so there is a level of really only being controlled by self and self-destination and self-knowing of what your cost effectiveness is and what your actions take. Because living under the guise of these good, people will say, oh, they're a good Christian, really, or they're a good officer, or they were good this, they were good that, but it comes with the label, they're a good police officer, they're a good Christian. So these things have been seen as labels that are good and wholesome, and anything that goes against that, it will be challenged. And so you will find that those around you, when you're organically challenging the very thing that is a veneer, it's not even real, they'll not like that either. So it's a really challenging time is what I'm trying to say. But that's the last bit I'm going to cover in this video. I can feel thoughts fading in and fading out, so I'm going to love you, never leave you. If you need me, call me. I'll be doing readings, taking bookings, just letting the swelling go down. Yeah, wow. Sirens again. It's honestly, it's non-stop. So much love, balance, and wholeness from a broken Britain, but a very whole heart. I love you all. Big love.